you should do YouTube. And I'm like, dude, I'm not doing YouTube. Like,
Right.
I'm gonna pass. But that was how I got into coaching, and it just blew up.
He's obviously an entrepreneur coming from the SaaS space, an angel investor, and he's a sought-after executive coach as well. He's a Wall Street Journal best-selling author. Buy Back Your Time.
Yeah, that book took 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I wrote the book to buy back my time.
Tell me more.
Okay, well, so what happened is
He's exited 3 technology companies within a 10-year period. I'm going to want to know about that.
yeah, the promise I make in the book is
Wow.
because Jeremy, that's the killer. You grow it in a way that you wake up one day and go, this sucks.
Do you think you would be where you're at right now had you not gone to prison?
0 chance.
Why?
The moment that really hit me hard was I was working on a Sunday at the office like I did every Sunday.
Yeah.
Come home, find my fiance at the time in tears, and pretty much she says, I'm done.
So you're basically working and then like going to bed and waking up and working.
Passing out. I shouldn't be in a relationship. I'm a horrible.
I work too much.
Yeah, like I don't want to do that again.
What happened with your fiance? Did you guys end up
Done. I don't know what it is for you, but you know the market, the customers buying. What's true about when they're ready to do this?
Yeah.
And it takes me a while, but I finally come up with this ridiculous idea that they.
All right, welcome to another episode of Closers Are Losers. I am here with the man, the myth. Some call him a legend. I'm thinking maybe savage, after I'm reading him, Dan Martell. Now, I've got a bio here. I'm going to read it here. So Dan is a Wall Street Journal best-selling author. Buy Back Your Time. I would suggest you get that book. You might have an opportunity after a while to get that book. He's obviously an entrepreneur coming from the SaaS space, an angel investor, and he's a sought-after executive coach as well. He's exited 3 technology companies within a 10-year period. I'm going to want to know about that. And he's also, get this, he's a husband. He's also a father. He's got 2 boys. He's an Ironman athlete. I'm going to ask you when you have time to do that. And he likes to give back to charities. Dan, welcome to the show, my man.
Appreciate it,
I've been
man.
following you for a while. When they said, hey, let's do something, I'm like,
Yeah,
Dan
vice
Martell,
versa.
I'm like, Dan Martell, who's that guy? And all of a sudden, I look down at my phone and I get on IG and there's Dan Martell like talking about something. I'm like, they're listening to me or something like that.
Yeah,
so,
Meta is, not me.
yeah, something's going on.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got some questions for you that might be a little bit different than maybe what some people ask you.
All right, let's
Are
hit
you
it.
Not
Yeah.
opposed to that? All right, I
No.
wrote them down here. I want to get going. All right, so first of all, I want to talk about the book. So we've got this Buy Back Your Time book. Now, what I want to know sincerely is who did you write this book for? And then why did you actually write the book? Because I understand books take some time.
Yeah, that book took 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I wrote the book to buy back my time.
Oh, tell me more.
Okay, well, so what happened is, I've been coaching for 7 years, and the first thing to help somebody create change is have the time to do the work.
Yeah.
So the process that I taught in the book, the buyback loop, essentially is my methodology that I've used to build and scale companies.
Yeah.
So, and then people that are friends of mine, all entrepreneurs outside of software, because that's for a long time the only people I would coach.
Sure.
Would ask me like, hey, I see how you work with your assistant Ann, or I see how you have Betty, your house manager. I see how you set up your companies. Like, how do you think of it? How do you do it?
Yeah.
And I would sit there and I'd literally show them. I'm an open book. I literally, if you say, how do you manage your email? I'm like, here.
You're going to tell us?
I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to
So
tell
the
you.
magician reveals his secrets over here. I like
Yeah,
that. Okay,
I'm here it is.
Okay,
And
yeah.
the problem is it just took a long time. Now, when I decided to make the investment in writing the book, because I knew the endeavor, I talked to a lot of people that are great authors, and I essentially took out a piece of paper and I wrote down 25 names.
Okay.
Right? Because I really was like, if I'm going to do this, I want to deal with all the objections, all the situations, all the mind monsters, all the belief, like we're going to bust some beliefs. So I wrote down 25 people I love's names.
Okay.
My brother Pierre, my wife Renee, and my business partner, like everybody, and even the bike, when you talk about Ironman, so like the guy that owns the bike shop.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I put his name down there.
Okay.
And then I looked at, who am I really writing this for? And I said it's, 1.4 million a year revenue business, about 10 to 12 employees, because that's when stuff gets hard.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
Like it
yeah.
gets hard before.
I remember starting
but
some level a few years ago, yeah.
That's like this part where you hit what I call the pain line.
Yeah.
And as I was writing the book, I would just review the list. And I say, did I meet Joe's issues? Did I overcome them? Like what chapter did I speak to Joe? What chapter did I speak to Mark? What chapter did I speak to Vince?
Yeah.
And that's how I sat down to write the book was what do I want to teach so that I don't have to explain all this process, and then who are the people I care about. And I mean, anybody that reads the book, hopefully they get the vibe. Like I put a lot of
That's
intention
interesting that you
it.
wrote it around people you care about. So tell us what caused you to like, I need to write this book around these type of people and focus on their problems and how I help them solve that. Because most people wouldn't write a book like that.
I guess, I mean, I learned a long time ago from a creative point of view, my art has to come from a place of love. I know it sounds corny, but like...
You're authentic.
I just never built a software product that I didn't want to see exist in the world to solve a problem for me.
Yeah.
So like I've just always had that inherently.
Yeah.
And it just felt like the right way to write it, and then also to focus it, right? To choose to focus it on this avatar I created, and really ask myself, like, did I get inside his mind and speak to his soul, right? And my favorite compliment people can give me is like, it's like you were spying on me.
So you've humanized a book. So instead of just theory in your book, which I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to get a signed copy from you today. So you're actually teaching like actionable steps that the reader can take to actually buy back your time, which a big human need obviously is they want to make more money and they want to have more time. Totally. So that's a huge problem that you solve, right?
Yeah, the promise I make in the book is I'm going to teach you how to build a business you don't grow to hate.
Wow.
Because Jeremy, that's the killer. People think it's the economy, the market, whatever you want to say. It's you grow it in a way that you wake up one day and go, this sucks.
Tell us about your first company you started. Did you get the idea because you killed yourself with the first company you started?
Yeah.
Or did you just know how, were you born out of your mother's womb with like,
just like
advanced
I look for leverage in everything I do. No, I mean, so what's crazy is I started at 17 and just failed. Like I failed, but I was like full on, no side hustle. Like I'm going to try to build a software company. Fail. Do another one. Fail.
At 17? What would enter a 17-year-old's mind? I remember when I was 17, I'm playing high school baseball. I'm like, where am I going to play baseball in college? I get into baseball. I'm eating ramen noodles, trying to survive. How the hell did you be like, I need to build a software company, I'm 17?
I mean, the truth is I ended up in a lot of trouble as a kid.
Okay. I saw that on your website.
Yeah. So what happened was prison at 15 or juvenile detention at 15, prison at 17.
Could be trouble.
Ended up in rehab, did 11 months trying to work on myself, my stuff. And it was at the end of that process, the place was built in an old church camp, and I found this old computer and a yellow book on Java programming.
And you're just like, oh, this is interesting to me.
It just spoke to my soul. It was like literally writing code coming from a place of like chaos and uncertainty. It's just something about the predictable nature of if I write this thing, as long as the computer runs,
I get this.
It'll always happen. And the reoccurring nature of reoccurring revenue business is awesome. Some people that don't have that, I'm like, you need to figure out how to get paid every month for what you do, because it just changes the way you run a company.
Well, it changes the valuation of your company as well, right?
That's an upside.
Multiple stuff for sure. You're not dependent on like big chunk sales.
Transactions,
you have to keep doing over. 100%.
So that's how I got into software. It became my new addiction.
Okay. So you got addicted to software. You're in prison. Now, in your mind, do you think you would be where you're at right now had you not gone to prison?
Zero chance.
Why?
Because I think life happens for me, not to me.
Yeah.
I think I had the exact parents I needed to become the person I am today.
Yeah.
And I think that no pressure, no diamonds.
Yeah.
I think people wish that the world was easier, and guess what? It's not.
Yeah.
So we got to figure out how to overcome those challenges. And there's this like the analogy of a seed or an acorn in the ground. Like people get upset when you get life throws dirt on you.
Yeah.
Turns out you need the dirt.
Yeah.
You need the water too.
Yeah.
And then you also need the sunlight.
Yeah, I don't think you become who you are without going through the trials and tribulations, because if you have the right attitude and you learn the right skills, you come out of those like 10 times at a higher level.
Somebody said it the other day and I loved it. He said, you can only go as high as you've gone low.
So true.
And I've gone pretty friggin' low.
Yeah, somebody said, man would never know what good was if they didn't know what evil was.
That's true.
If there was no evil, you wouldn't know what good was.
No darkness, no light.
No darkness, no light, right? Yeah. We're getting some good quotes in here. I like that. We're going to write a book together. Write a book together on quotes. No darkness, no light. No bad, no good.
All original too.
All original too. We did not take those quotes from anybody.
They've never been inspired by any other person.
So let's go back to this first SaaS company. You started this. It's called. Is it Spirit? Spirit Technology. Tell us about that. Yeah.
So that was the thing that changed. You understand, failed company. And my dad would be like, maybe you should get a normal job. I'm like, Dad, ain't doing it, unemployable.
Yeah.
He was just happy I was, not getting in trouble with the law
something.
and not addicted to drugs anymore. But what happened right before I did that company is I was started to read business books.
Okay.
Like I was late to the game. Read software books, no problem.
Okay.
And at 23, I read my first book. It was called Love is a Killer App by Tim Sanders. Very few people have listened.
Okay.
Yeah, but it changed my life.
Okay.
And then shortly after, a friend of mine recommended a book called The E-Myth. Michael Gerber.
Yeah, I've heard of that before.
It's a legend. It sold like
10
10 million copies. And that was like, that's the process. I need to build a franchise prototype, and this is the thing I've been missing.
Yeah.
So at 23, before I have my company, I hire a guy named Bob. He was a certified E-Myth coach.
He was a certified E-Myth coach. Okay, so you hired Bob.
First time I've ever hired a coach, I'm 23, and Bob showed me business.
Yeah.
I was just a nerd writing code and building software, and he's like, no, there's actually like strategy. And
you got to forecast and
oh,
grow.
what a crazy idea. How about we have a plan?
So was
like
it just
stuff, like,
was it just you like typing out like mad genius? Did you have some people around you like
not
sweeping the floors around you, or what happened?
No, it was just me in my apartment, just writing code, thinking hopefully somebody buys it someday.
Okay.
And that's why I think I love software is I didn't have to talk to anybody. Turns out that's not true.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but what happened is I hired Bob.
Okay.
He showed me how to do the business stuff.
Yeah.
I always had the technical chops,
Yeah.
and we started closing some of the largest companies in the world. So
How
Procter
did
and
you
Gamble.
start closing these companies?
You
So you went from
I
nerd
feel
and
like
like this and like, oh no, I'm talking to Procter and Gamble. Like I know there's a little bit more to that story because I know how those big
how they
companies
buy.
work and
Okay,
how their
don't be mad
organizations
at
make
me because like this is
decision-making.
like Jeremy. When I look at your sales training and you're like, look, we're ethical and we do things by the book and we don't want to do that. Like so.
Well, when I say we do things by the book, we get the prospects because Procter and Gamble would be the one that has the problems. Your solutions solve that, right?
Yeah.
So I want to get them to do all the work. I want them to sell themselves. I want them to pull me in rather than like me do all the work, me do all the chasing, me try to pressure and push because we know that triggers sales resistance. Because I want to get them to persuade themselves that maybe they have much bigger problems than they originally thought they had, right?
And this is where I ended up, but where I was at in that moment, I had Bob talking to me about like, you've got this crazy technology, you got to sell it to these big companies.
Sure.
I'm 24, 25, I have no idea I'm going to do this. And he shares this cool story.
Okay.
He goes, let me tell you about the best salesperson that ever existed.
Yeah.
I'm like,
okay.
do tell.
Yeah.
And he goes, there was this young sales guy joins this new company and he wants to be successful.
Yeah.
And he's like working his butt off and he's showing up every day and he's in the office, he's doing the calls, but he's never at the top of the leaderboard. He's always in the middle, but he's willing to do the work.
Yeah.
And the guy at the top's been there for 25 years and he never comes in the office. This young guy never even met him.
Yeah.
And eventually, out of wherever that courage comes from, he reaches out to him. He says, hey, I need to learn.
I need to learn how to sell.
Yeah. So he reaches out to this top sales guy, and normally he would ignore all these people, but he's about to retire, and he just thought,
take him under the wing.
I like the way this kid asked me. So he says, meet me in the here's the address. Meet me there on Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
So he pulls into this parking lot in the industrial park,
and
he sees this guy sitting in his parked car. He gets out of his car, waves him over, sits in the passenger side. And he's looking, he looks across the street, and it's their competitor's warehouse.
Okay.
And he goes to the old sales pro. He says, what are we doing?
Yeah.
He goes, watch.
Yeah.
And the sales pro's looking. It's like truck pulls out, turns the car on,
Yeah.
follows the truck.
Yeah.
And then it goes to the customer, delivers the stuff, and he goes, what are we doing? He goes, this is how I do it. I literally see who's buying from my competitor.
Yeah.
And then all I do is I make a list, and then 2 weeks before the next month, I call them and say, are you interested in more office supplies?
Oh, okay. Yeah, hey, that's good.
Yeah.
So nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and so Bob tells me his story, and he goes, Dan, you need to figure out how do you insert yourself into a conversation when these Fortune 500 companies are ready to buy this enterprise portal
They already
stuff.
have the budgets, right? They have to spend the budgets.
They're ready. They're on the other side of the quarterly budget approval. It's now a priority.
It's like certain questions you have to ask that seed doubt in their mind that maybe what they have is not as good as they thought it was, and maybe yours might be a little bit better.
Yeah, so I wasn't even, again, I'm not even that clever. He just teaches me that concept.
Yeah.
And he goes, so I don't know what it is for you, but you know the market, the customers buying it. What's true about when they're ready to do this?
Yeah.
And it takes me a while, but I finally come up with this ridiculous idea that they hire a certain role.
Okay.
and it's a portal architect.
Okay.
So as soon as I come up with this idea, I make a bunch of fake resumes.
Okay. Hey,
of a bunch of portal architects.
You got to do what you got to do.
And guess what? On every one of these resumes, the phone number was my cell phone.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
So as soon as the recruiters of these big companies to hire the portal architect, who's the person's going to lead the project, they're going, is Mark there? And I go, Mark's on vacation, but he forwarded his phone to me. Are you looking for a portal architect? They go, yes, we are. So like, I'm not proud of it, Jeremy, but I'm just saying, like,
hey, you got to get in.
I'm 24 years old trying to sell to Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah.
Like,
well, hey, you're what you were selling probably solved problems a lot better.
Oh, they were happy that they got a hold of me.
Exactly. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that for sure.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. So when we talk at 7th level about being ethical, that doesn't mean getting to the end of the sales conversation like, well, email me back if you're interested. Like, you're not going to make any deals there. You got to build a gap from where they are to where they want to be, and a lot of times they don't even know where they are, and that's up to you with the questions you ask and how to use your tone that kind of emotionally opens them up and creates a gap in their mind that maybe they didn't know they had before, right? I always say the biggest problem in anything is the problem that you don't know you have. And most prospects, when you first start talking to them, don't even know they have a problem, right?
True.
Or maybe they know they have a problem, but maybe they don't understand how bad the problem really is, or the consequences of what happens if they don't do anything. So it's your job as a salesperson or entrepreneur to help build them that gap in their mind, not unless they're a lay down. They're not going to have that gap there.
Totally.
You know, that's like, okay, I digress. Let's keep going because I want to ask about this. What did you do? Okay, so you exited this first time. Or no, you almost crashed it.
Yeah, well, that was where I learned how to buy back my time.
So then you buy back the time, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, the thing started to work.
Yeah.
First company,
the thing started to work.
10 years of like trying,
yeah.
And I just couldn't, the fear I had was, what if I stop doing what I'm doing and the momentum gets lost?
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you what I was doing that was making it work.
Right.
So I'm running around spinning all the plates.
Yeah.
And the moment that really hit me hard was I was working on a Sunday at the office like I did every Sunday.
Yeah.
Come home, find my fiance at the time in tears.
Yeah. Okay.
And pretty much she says, I'm done.
You're working too many hours.
This was not the first time she had expressed this, as you can imagine.
How many hours were you working realistically?
100 hours, no joke.
Okay, 100 hours a week.
Do the math.
What is that? How many hours is that per day? Seven
I mean, it's
week?
pretty
Is
much
like
18 a day.
Okay, so you're basically working and then like going to bed and waking up and working.
Passing out.
Yeah. Okay.
And sometimes when you can't sleep,
we've had a few of those weeks before.
Yeah.
Nick, right? It's been about the last 5 weeks.
But it was like travel, because I sold, again, Fortune 500 companies. I have customers in Warsaw, I have customers in DC. Is like wherever they needed me, I was there.
You were there. Yeah.
Just go.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to hire people, and I don't know what I'm doing with people, and I'm like getting upset in meetings, and I'm just no communication.
So you're trying to like. What was your biggest skill set you had? Like in business, what is your biggest strength? Is it running the business?
Passionate
is it the
for
product?
this software. Yeah, the product.
Okay.
I'm a product guy at heart, I think.
So
I had to
you're
learn
the
everything
product,
else.
the fulfillment, and you were trying to do everything else at the same time.
Totally.
And a lot of entrepreneurs do that in the beginning, right? When I
wear all
started
the
7th
hats.
level, it was me and my assistant Beth, and I was trying to run the business, trying to do all the training, develop new products, which is impossible to do.
It'll go nuts.
And so, how did you change that? Did you bring hey, like I got to get this guy or gal because she's way better at running the business? Like, what changed to get you there?
Honestly, Jeremy, that company, even though I exited and became wealthy, that wasn't my high. Like that was where I learned it.
Okay.
I had to move to San Francisco. So as a software guy, it's like it's the Disneyland for tech nerds.
So you go to San Francisco. What happened?
And I meet a guy named Naval. And today, people know him as Naval Ravikant. He's very well known, kind of like tech influence. He's been on Joe Rogan.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was when I realized, like, how do I move forward in life? Because like I honestly thought maybe I just have to resolve myself to being the cool uncle. I shouldn't be in a relationship. I'm a horrible.
I work too much.
Yeah, like I don't want to do that again.
What happened with your fiance? Did you guys end up
done?
Oh, you were done.
7 weeks
she's
before
like,
the wedding.
Done. Wow.
Went to live with her parents, and that was just pretty much the last time we were together.
Yeah,
so it was a wake-up call.
Okay. Yeah.
But then when I moved to San Francisco, I met all these young cats, 26-year-old kids that are building $100 million companies. I'm like, how are they doing it?
Yeah.
And you start to see the infrastructure and the process. And I'll tell you what they don't do. Yeah. They don't raise $100 million to sit there and write code anymore.
Yeah, right.
Like that's cute. But so then what? Chief of staff, VPs, like they essentially. I was like, oh, as fast as you can learn what Naval calls the 4 skills of leverage. The 4 C's. So essentially, it's capital.
Yeah.
content, right? SOPs is content. Code,
building systems,
automation, AI today, and then the last one is collaboration. Like, how do you think about people to deploy labor dollars to buy back your time? So in the book, I teach this framework called the replacement ladder, and I show you the math behind the first hire, as you just mentioned, is your assistant. It's the least amount of capital for the highest time purchase back.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you know how many people I know that have like
I have 2 assistants now.
My assistant has an assistant. I know people that run 8-figure businesses that have a COO that don't even have an EA.
What? How?
Oh, this happens all the time.
How's that even possible? I couldn't even live my life.
No, there are people that I love. Okay, they didn't make the list of 25, but I do care about them. And every time we communicate, they're trying to coordinate with me, and I have to loop in. And it's just like, dude, don't do this to yourself.
Yeah. So when we start coordinating, I'm like, oh, let me put you in the text with Leah. Like I don't have time. Like I'm good. Like let's do this, but I can't text and schedule. I'm not even gonna look. I usually don't check my emails, but like once a week.
Yeah.
The assistant checks them for me.
Totally. Yeah. And so like that to me is the philosophy, is if you understand what your hourly rate is, your buyback rate,
I agree.
Then everything else that you do that you could pay somebody else to do, you're literally working harder and against your dreams. You're swimming upstream. So then, but then it's the buyback loop for me is audit your calendar for time and energy. Transfer it to somebody else, and there's a process for doing that right, or you're going to go nuts. And then fill your calendar back up with things that make you money immediately. If I'm a logo designer, go just do logos until you're at a point where you can hire a logo designer, because it's now in the replacement ladder that higher.
So true.
And then fill up your calendar with things like skills, beliefs, and character traits.
It's the same thing we did, when it was just me and my assistant. I'm like, I'm not very good at running a company because I've never done that. I've been a chief sales officer for a huge company, completely different than
2 different skills.
Running your own business, making financial decisions, throwing money everywhere. And once I brought on, business partner, my CEO, and our CRO to run the marketing and sales side, we went from like here to here like overnight, because my weaknesses were their strengths, right? And their weaknesses were my strengths.
Play.
Exactly, right? So, Matt loves running the company and numbers and forecasting and all this great stuff. Now our CFO, he comes from Wall Street, so he's like this big Wall Street CFO. We're going to restructure everything. I'm like, well, I wouldn't even know how to do that. I'm glad we have somebody that knows what to do, so we don't, go to jail because we didn't pay the right taxes or something. And then you get the right people in place in different departments. And sometimes, as you know, when you're growing so fast, because I think a lot of people see like, wow, that company's growing so fast, they're making all this money. Well, you make a lot of money when you grow fast, but a lot of times you're not as profitable because you're like trying to throw bodies. You're trying to throw bodies in places where maybe those bodies should not be, because maybe that's not their biggest skill set, but you're trying to plug a hole. Okay, you're like, oh, can you do this? Okay, yeah, good. Or you're in sales. Well, why don't you be a copywriter? Okay, good. See you over here. And sometimes you have to like slow down your growth.
Fast.
Like this year, we're like, okay, we're going to slow down our growth.
Build the infrastructure, foundation.
Build better infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite analogy is, a lot of these city engineers, they can literally go into a city, see all the tower, the cranes, and based on the foundation, they can tell you to the floor how big this building's going to be.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We need to work on our foundation sometimes. Like I remember back in the day, HubSpot, most people know the product, but Dharmesh, the founder, he came to our office, we were talking, and this was 2013, 14, and they made a decision to stop growing 50% a year, to go down to the 20%, to build the right product, to then go back and continue the charge. Had they not, they would have kind of fell under their own weight.
Yeah, I think, what did they do, like 19 billion last year in sales?
And if you look at their revenue growth,
billion.
It literally, you can see where they decided we're going to be product, we're going to fix it, we're going to get the foundation right, and then we can continue marching.
It's so true. I think a lot of times, I wouldn't say that we're in the influencer space. You're in the SaaS, but you're kind of like the brand ambassador.
If you do online, we have TikTok accounts.
Yeah,
we're influencers.
Okay, so
there we go.
I never
That's
looked
the
at myself. I'm
qualifier.
like, our competitors. Yeah, but anyways. But I think sometimes when you look at other people and other competitors, you're like, oh my gosh, they're going real fast, but you don't really know what's going on the inside, right?
I have no idea.
There's always weaknesses and strengths of any type of company. All right, so I want to go over the couple of other questions here that I have that I thought were really important. I want to know specifically, like, just a couple of things, because you've got this program now. You created SaaS Academy. Tell us why you did that, and tell us more about it.
Started with my YouTube channel. We were just talking about that. Essentially, after I sold my company Clarity.fm, so I did those 3 companies in a 10-year period.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I was just kind of in San Diego chilling out. I was hanging out with my buddy Travis. He was the marketing guy behind the influencers.
Oh,
so
really?
JJ Virgin. Oh yeah, Travis Houston is like the guy.
I
even
know when
today.
People say these names, I'm like, I don't even know who that is.
Yeah. But there's the people behind the people. Yeah. That's Travis. And he goes, you should do YouTube. And I'm like, dude, I'm not doing YouTube. Like, you can keep those cool. That's your dream. That's not my dream.
Yeah. Mr. Beast is on YouTube.
Yeah. I'm going to pass. But you know what? It scared me.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's interesting. Why does that make me anxious? So started YouTube, had my 2 boys were 1 and newborn. So I thought, worst case, I create this content for my kids.
Okay,
That was a big motivation initially. Yeah. And it just blew up.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the request for advisory roles, consulting, which I don't do, came in, and that was how I got into coaching.
Yeah.
So SaaS Academy probably started 3 years after that.
Okay.
So it's about 6 years old today.
Yeah.
And it's one of the largest coaching organizations. We have over 1,000 active clients.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's like you have to have a product and market, revenue generating.
Okay. And they're company clients, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. These are
SaaS founders or
just that we predominantly just work with the CEOs, although we support their product, marketing, engineering teams. But
interesting.
Yeah, we're like business coaching for software CEOs.
Okay, I got a couple of good questions for you. We've kind of gone over a few things that you do, but how do you help CEOs really buy back their time? What are a few
I love this.
things
Obviously,
that you really help? Because I'm curious, because the last 6 weeks, Nick, couple of weeks, haven't I been working like 14, 16 hours a day?
Yeah.
Good Lord, we have 150 people at this company. What is going on? Can I get a break?
And there's sprints within marathons, right?
Sure, yeah.
But the way I think about it, you're asking you read the Ironman, how do you do all this stuff? So I'm in Tempe next weekend, here.
Because you work at CrossFit, right?
Yeah, I did the CrossFit for a while.
Okay.
I was like, hey, that's fun.
It's 45 minutes to an hour a day. You got to go to the gym, you got to go back. I typically go 3 to 4 times a week to CrossFit. I love CrossFit because the class structure.
Dude, just
you
show up.
You can't get on your phone.
Just show up.
Yeah, because when you go to the gym, Lifetime Fitness, you go to the gym and you got 10 texts and then 3 emails, and then 35 minutes later you've done 1 bench.
Yeah, especially, and then it's even worse if you listen to a podcast. It's like, I got an idea, I got to write it down.
Yeah, exactly.
But so I just wanted a different challenge. So I started doing triathlons, couldn't swim. Got into that. Okay. But what's interesting is, again, that's why people kept asking me, like, how do you do it all, right? You train for Ironman, you run companies, you do investments, and my family is very important. Yeah. And I start with this simple concept. Let's look at your calendar. If you're feeling the pain, what I call the pain line, and we do a time and energy audit. Yeah. And I ask you, let's highlight in green things that light you up, that you love doing, and highlight in red things that take your energy. Yeah. Right. And let's be honest, because sometimes, Jeremy, meetings for us are green, and then they eventually turn yellow.
Right. Yeah.
And kind of like a little bit.
You don't really need them, or you're short them. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I've resigned from boards. I've said no to things I'm doing. I told team members, you guys are on your own now. I'm gonna, send me the report. I'm good. Yeah. So what I help CEOs do is understand where their focus is going. Okay. Then we take everything that's red, anything that's got a low dollar amount. So we assign a dollar amount, $1 to $4.
Is this income producing activities or
not? And if you had to pay somebody else to do that, is that a $1 or $4? Yeah. And anything that's red or a $1 sign, you put it into a bucket, and that's the next hire. So you call up your HR person. Here's the job spec. I would like somebody. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 2. Okay. 2 hires, but we start there to get the space out of their calendar. Okay. But then we got to transfer. How do you do that really easily? Okay. One of my strategies that people love out of the book is this thing called the camcorder method. Okay. I legit record myself doing my work. Really? While I'm recording it, I talk out loud what I'm doing. Okay. I save it on Dropbox.
So people can...
When I hire that new person, I go spend the next week watching 40 hours of me doing the thing you need to go do. Okay. You create the SOP.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
And then when you show me the standard operating procedure, I'll know based on how good it is if you actually understood what I was trying to say.
That's a really good idea.
Yep.
So would part of the strategy just be like saying no sometimes?
Oh, no is part of it.
Yeah, because sometimes I have a hard time saying no, because they'll be like... Because last year I was on like 150 some guest appearances on podcasts. So I was flying some in person, like doing some, and then eventually I'm like, wait a minute, some of these podcasts I'm on here, I ask them like, how many downloads do you get per month? And, I'm just like, what what am I doing? Like maybe I need to focus on that and just set it up. I think sometimes just saying no, even though you want to say
yes. It's a big theme of the book.
Even turning down clients, like we typically get about 7 to 10 keynote requests, a month, like to go in person. Well, I don't want to do 10 keynotes a month and like be gone every day. You know Brian Tracy?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of my good friends. My first product I did with him to get our Ultimate Closers Masterclass we launched 4 years ago.
No way.
But Brian said one of his biggest things he regretted, and why he left social media now, is because back in the day, 20, 30 years ago, he had to fly to this keynote, because that's how his company made money. You got to go do this training for 50 grand. You got to go over here for 30 grand. Then you got to, and he's gone 3 out of every 4 weeks. And I'm like, whoa, like I do not want to do that.
That's not that life.
But with social media, it's like, you don't really need to do that. So we hone it down to where we do 1 to 2 keynotes a month. And it's primarily just for the content and the reels.
Yeah, you choose.
Because it's not a way to build a business. You can go live on Instagram and have 600 people watch your live. You know, it's not a big deal.
Well, that philosophy. So a yes is a no.
Yeah.
Okay, saying yes to something is a no to something else, and a no is a yes to the potential of what you could be doing.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the way I coach my clients. It's like, let's look at this, and like you said, I'm not saying don't do speak engagement. I'm just saying let's create a criteria that your assistant can execute, and now you have a filter.
Yeah.
So they'll take care of it. Request comes in, send it to your assistant. They go boom, boom, boom. Doesn't meet the apology email.
Right.
But you've already written it. You've done it 100 times. Just create a template from it. So for me, it's about understanding, like how do people do this at scale?
Yeah.
It's where are we going?
Yeah.
Okay. If we begin with the end in mind and we understand this is what it's got to look like, then we can reverse engineer the moves.
Yeah.
Then of those moves, where do I want to be the talent in the moves?
Right.
And of the moves I got to do, me as the talent, how am I going to get the most leverage?
Yeah, that's so true.
Like we talked about code, content capital, and collaboration. So, if you wanted to scale a speaking business, then train other speakers.
Exactly right.
Right?
So
and if you want my time, you got to write the big check.
Yeah.
Because I'm flying private, and you're going to bring my team.
Yeah, because now we're like with 10
coming.
requests, we're like we have to charge more because we just can't. You can't.
That's
keep
how
up.
life should be.
And you have to look at the is the keynote, like how many people are there. So let's say that your speaking fee is 70 grand or 60 grand or whatever it is. Okay, 60 grand, is it really worth it to fly from Phoenix to Miami? That's a 3-day trip. You got to go there the day before. You got to go speak, then you come back. And not just that, but usually it takes 3 or 4 days to prep and rehearse. You're not going to just show up like So it's a week and a half for 60 grand. Is it really that worth it, right? But if you've got an audience of, let's say, 5,000 or 10,000 people, and then you wow them and they're like, oh, we want to buy his training programs or whatever. We did one live keynote for one of our biggest clients now, Quilty Insurance in Denver about a year ago. Almost 9,000 people there. We made about $1 million in sales above the thing. But then you get other ones where like there's 200 people there, and you're like, I don't know if it's really
buyers.
Yeah, it's not really worth it. And that's not even selling from stage. It's just doing a keynote and like, wow, I need to get this
conversations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is where I start the book. The core concept is the buyback principle. Is say we don't hire to grow our business. We hire people to buy back our time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the first principle. You can't deny it. You can't build $1 million company off $10 tasks. Impossible. Yeah. But then once you have that, then it's what's my buyback rate. And once you actually run the numbers to understand that, then when you look at a keynote that takes me a day on the front end, day on the other side, prep time, etc., that's $60K that I can guarantee do if I go live right now on my own audience.
You usually go live for 45 minutes and make more than that.
Exactly. Or you could email a person that's got an audience, get on their stage, and so it's like you start looking strategically, this is where I want to end up, what are the things I'm involved in?
Rather than looking cool.
Yes. And like to me, that's my favorite part is it's very easy for me to work with the CEO.
Yeah.
Get a ton of time back. Yeah. But honestly, Jeremy, that's the part that scares people.
Yeah.
What if I did give you 2 days a week back? What are you going to do with that time?
But man, I would love that. Right?
You know that, yes, but a lot of CEOs are
I was doing a 7-hour training 2 days ago on a Sunday in California for one of our big client companies. And I'm like, I woke up Monday morning, I'm like, oh, I got to go back in the office again. What the hell?
Yeah, I thought this was the weekend. But that to me is the fun part is, look, it could be energy giving today, and then eventually it starts to drain. Yeah. Give yourself permission to renegotiate expectations.
Yeah.
The other day I walked into a meeting for my highest level program. Okay, these are people doing 10 million plus a year.
Yeah.
And I like to do final interviews.
Okay. Yeah.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, you want to find out what
my
their
group.
experiences are.
I want to make sure that they're a good fit.
To get better, yeah.
Well, my program owner, she says to me, she goes, Dan, you're no longer doing final interviews. And I said, why? Yeah. She goes, because the sales director, we had a conversation, he can't book his revenue until you give him approval, and you're traveling, you're not available, and it's slowing things down. And the truth is in the last 8 months, every person I put in front of you, you've never said no, you trust me, I'm going to make the decision. If I make a wrong decision, we can always adjust it.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it. My heart was like, I want to hold on to this.
So
what
true.
are you doing?
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was like, nice.
I know it's so true. Like, we were just at this event. There were 700 in the audience, so not a huge event, but 700. We trained their company, Kangen Water, the MLM.
Yeah, water, yeah.
And so, they all had the book, and they're all like, I want you to sign my book. And I'm like, I freaking signed all the books, man.
Did you do it?
But like, we were there for hours after, like during lunch and stuff. And that
hurts, man. The
6-hour training turned out to be like 10 or 11. And by the end of it, I'm just like, dude, we got to get a stamp or something. But I felt bad. But it's almost like, how do you say no?
I just make somebody else do it for me.
Oh my God.
Jeremy
just get a stamp,
Yeah.
That's what I told them.
Stamp's a good idea.
Yeah, our VP of fulfillment, they're like, hey, for every advanced inner circle client we have, that's our biggest training program. We only let 50 people a month in that. They're like, we need to have Jeremy sign 50 books every month. And I'm like, okay, when am I going to fit that into my calendar? Because sign it, I can't just sign my name. I got to put like, be the best or something, But I'm like, I'm breaking down the time. I'm like, that's like half of my Friday when I'm supposed to shoot content. I'm like, we need to go get a stamp or something like that. That's not sustainable.
No, and I think that's what I do is you can get a printed postcard. You can do an insert.
Yeah, okay.
There's that, or you can get the page printed with it.
Yeah.
But that's where when I said a renegotiation of expectations, like sometimes we have to go to our team and say, I know we've done this in the past.
Yeah.
You need to stop saying that.
Yeah.
I'm no longer doing this.
Yeah.
Like I got a 2-day event going on right now.
Yeah.
I've been on stage for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm here with you.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because
the event.
a couple of years ago, this is my event.
Oh, wow.
Like literally, I'm the whatever guy
host,
that's supposed to be on stage.
You're supposed to be on stage.
But no, 2 years ago, I started the process. I hired an MC. He's one of our head coaches. He runs the whole stage time. We have our other coaches be the content.
Right.
I show up in the morning, day one, do my 15 minutes, set the context.
Yeah.
Then I get to go do this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm in the city. It's fun. I'm around.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I come in for a Q&A and I do photos.
Yeah.
And we call it a day.
Yeah.
And at some point for that program, I won't even be showing up.
Yeah, I got another question for you, and I know you got other commitments, so we'll wrap up. 2 minutes. Okay, so one last question. What was a big thing that you had to figure out to really scale your company? So let's say you got up to 3, 4, 5 million a month. How did you take it to the next level?
Yeah, I think I look at all businesses through this philosophy called TOC. Okay, it comes from manufacturing. It's theory of constraints.
Okay.
In any system, you have throughput. And on the other side, raw materials, finished goods.
Yeah.
Hope I'm not losing anybody, but that's the idea.
Yeah, sure.
And it's quality and volume. Like how fast can things move through this system and produce volume and quality. Those are the two things you want to make sure don't drop.
Okay.
So I pretty much like the blockers for every company has always been different. The one thing I will tell everybody that's trying to buy back their time and really get the most throughput is you got to buy the time back. But here's what I didn't do for a while, that the moment I changed this, my whole life shifted.
Okay.
I used to have, I read Getting Things Done by David Allen. I had a folder system, 43 folders for the tech nerds out there that understand his productivity. So like I had this system for managing all the requests and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I go hang out with Richard Branson in Switzerland.
Okay.
And I watch a dude.
Virgin.
Yeah. He's the billionaire all the billionaires want to be like.
Yeah.
And I watched him spend 60 to 90 minutes in the morning over breakfast with Helen, his assistant. And after that, he was with us on the ski hill.
Wow.
He runs 400 companies.
That's crazy.
Yeah. What he did is he said to Helen,
yeah,
you manage all the inbound.
Okay.
And you take care of it. You block and tackle.
Yeah.
And after that trip, I took my inbox, literally the email, and I did delegated access. That's the difference. I used to CC, loop people in.
Okay.
No.
So you're still doing stuff, yeah.
No. Okay. Like people are like, what do you get your assistant to do?
Yeah.
I know your problem.
Yeah.
You're deciding.
Yeah.
I don't decide. All emails go through them.
So you have to get a really good assistant, though.
Yeah.
You really
got to train them.
It's like your right hand woman or man.
100%. They're my partner. And
Yeah.
I'd say you're my business partner in my life. You know all of the context of my relationships.
Yeah.
And you invest in them.
Yeah.
But that changed everything because all of a sudden they had the to-do list. They had the contracts that needed to be signed. Cool, approved. So we'd sit down.
All the little tasks.
And I teach it in the book. I literally, chapter 6, Clone Yourself, is I think one of the best chapters in the whole book, which teaches you the email GPS system I teach. Yeah. It teaches you the daily meeting I have with my assistant, what to go over. Yeah. My favorite one is previous meetings. Hey, really? Jeremy, yesterday you had a meeting with Bob. Anything I got to do?
Yeah.
No, we're good. What about Mark?
Yeah.
Oh, can you get him this thing? Because this is...
Sure.
I don't have to think and remember any of this.
Yeah.
It is...
I think it's about getting the right person as your
It's
EA
always a
and
person
stuff.
thing, yeah.
All right, so Dan, where can they go? So where can they go to buy the
yeah.
book, buy back your book? We get a couple 100,000 downloads a month here on the show. So we get a lot of salespeople that are going to start following you, a lot of entrepreneurs, small business owners. We've even got Fortune 500 CEOs that watch this show. So where can they go to buy back their time and start with the book?
Yeah, everybody should go to buybackyourtime.com to get the book.
Yeah.
It's available in all bookstores, online, Amazon. But I want to do something cool for you.
Let's do it.
If you go to Instagram, double L to Martell, Dan Martell.
Okay, let's get to his IG handle.
Yeah, Dan Martell. Follow me, a little gift.
Yeah.
I will send you my internal SOP that I have for my assistant.
All right, perfect.
Okay, Google Doc, link, direct, no opt-in.
Okay.
So just message me.
All right, so follow Dan on his handle. We'll put the handle here in the show notes. When you follow him, message him and be like, hey,
Jeremy.
Hey,
or
I'm on
level.
Jeremy's show.
Yeah,
I need that SOP, right?
Yeah.
And Dan's team will send you that SOP. Go get the book so you can buy back your time and actually enjoy your life. I'm gonna freaking buy this guy's coach's program because the last 6 weeks I'm like, I need to buy more time. Like, what's your biggest asset in your life? It's your time, because once your time is gone, you can no longer buy it back. There you go. See, that's a good quote we could put in the book, right?
Yeah.
Once your time's gone, you can never buy it back. You can be a billionaire, but once the time's gone, you can't buy it back. Doesn't have much. Hey, thanks for being on the show, man.
It's super fun, man.
I've been wanting to meet you. So, all right. So go get his book and follow him on IG. We'll put the show notes in and DM him like SOP. I saw you on Jeremy's show, and he'll get that right over to you. Thanks, everybody.